Okay, so I just saw the coverage of the Apple event by various tech channels. I didn't really watch the live stream. The event, it was okay. Apple made an iPhone for people who really want to show off they have the latest iPhone, an iPhone for people who want to overcompensate. The new Apple Watch Ultra is confusing. If you want a rugged watch, you can just get a G-Shock 4 way cheaper. And people who are really into those extreme activities probably have specialized gear to begin with. But it's your choice. That or the base iPhone 14. The emergency features were pretty cool. And now that I see Apple giving those features, I feel like it should be the standard for all phones going forward now. I don't know how I feel about it being free for only 2 years, and then Apple charging you though. The whole theme of the event was to kind of instill fear into non-Apple users. But also, another major theme of the event was the commitment to being carbon neutral by 2030.
And Apple Watch Ultra, as well as our entire watch lineup, was designed with the environment in mind. From the use of recycled materials to suppliers' use of clean energy during manufacturing. We're already carbon neutral for our corporate operations, and these efforts move us even closer toward our goal to become carbon neutral for our entire product footprint by 2030.
Charging easier, in addition to the lightning cable, you can now use your Apple Watch charger, as well as MagSafe for other Qi compatible chargers. We've built AirPods Pro with the environment in mind. All magnets are made with 100% recycled rare earth elements, and all outer plastic wrap from the packaging is removed. And you can recycle all AirPods models. Just bring them to your nearest store or mail them in.
Like iPhone 14, our Pro models are designed with features to reduce their environmental impact. They use recycled materials like gold and rare earth elements and meet our high standards for energy efficiency.
It's a major talking point for, I feel like, a lot of Apple events. And every time I hear them making these claims, I'm like, how are you gonna do that? You can't recycle your way to carbon neutrality with the amount of phones you're selling, no matter how small you make the boxes. And I just wanted to talk about the things I found and how these billion-dollar companies are using the being carbon neutral thing to their advantage and basically boosting their sales. But before we begin this video, I want to make it clear that I didn't copy this video idea from John Oliver. They recently made a video kind of similar to this, but they talked about larger corporations as a whole, while my video focuses on Apple. I was just sitting on a topic so that I could release it today because I'm a small channel and I have to do this kind of stuff, but John Oliver came and basically ruined my video. So now, this channel is officially at war with the Last Week Tonight channel. Totally original idea. And I cannot wait to see how this will affect my channel. But in all seriousness, do watch John Oliver's original video. His team put in some meaningful research and it's something I couldn't have discovered alone. Now to my video. Every year, Apple claims they have reduced their carbon footprint. And every year, I question how. They announced that they would become carbon neutral by the year 2030, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And I did some research on the topic and found out how they were actually gonna do that. Apple announced that they would be donating to conserve existing forests. This is also known as carbon offsetting, and the first thing that came into my head was that were the forests going to get destroyed if Apple didn't donate? I don't think so. And then it became clear why Apple were doing that. To get the tag of carbon neutrality. I have been looking into climate change and how carbon affects the climate after I found this interesting NASA video. And I don't know if I'll ever make a full video on the topic, but I'll share a few things here. Most carbon in the environment hovers around the big cities, as that is where most carbon is produced. And for the carbon to be distributed to places like rainforests, then there needs to be a constant flow of wind all the time. You can see that after a rainstorm, the area becomes much clearer, and that's what I'm talking about. And for a forest in, I don't know, Brazil to have an impact on a city like New York, then the carbon of New York constantly needs to flow to Brazil. Studies have shown higher CO2 in the environment helps plants to grow bigger and produce more oxygen, which would be great, but not possible in the case of carbon offsetting. It doesn't mean conservation of such forests is useless, but it isn't nearly as helpful as Apple would like you to believe. Carbon offsetting also does nothing for the core issue, which is to reduce our carbon footprint. Most companies donate to poor countries for carbon offsetting so that they can produce as much carbon as they want. There are laws where carbon offsetting basically allows companies to produce as much carbon as they want, and that's just stupid. You can't allow companies to basically buy an eco-friendly stamp of approval. And that's why the big companies like carbon offsetting so much. They get all the credit without putting in any meaningful work, like actually investing in recycling technology, making their factories more efficient, setting up factories with clean energy, or maybe even planting additional trees and stuff closer to the cities. But those commitments would require more planning and a lot more logistics. If Apple actually wanted to do something good for the environment, they would try to do something in dense cities where we would see the most effect. Or they could simply just not sell phones every year. Think about it. We don't need a new iPhone every year. Like, no joke, the iPhone 12 is like such a good deal right now, especially for people who just don't care about having the latest and greatest. It's a perfectly fine phone and would be great for multiple years down the line as well. Plus, maybe you could get it cheaper on Amazon or get a refurbished one. For like 90% of users, this phone would be just fine. This strategy of not releasing phones every year could potentially cut down their carbon impact by half, and also give a break to the child workers in Africa. You know, the rampant cobalt mining operation in Congo that openly uses child labor. Maybe Apple could help them. Oh wait, they actually already know about it? And actually do nothing? Oh, bummer. But makes sense since helping those kids wouldn't make Apple carbon neutral. Sorry kids, you should have been born as a tree, but also the trees of an already dense and protected forest though. And yeah, I just wanted people to know about this. Apple just wants the tag of being carbon neutral to seem like a more progressive company. They will excessively advertise that they are making a change and imply you are making a change by buying Apple products. I hope people just aren't buying their lies. If you actually want to do something to reduce your carbon footprint, then just use your current phone for as long as you can. If you don't need it, you don't have to buy the latest models, and advocate for right to repair. Don't just believe companies when they say they can give out schematics and parts to be safe, or give an excuse on how they need to make proprietary components to make their products more seamless and sleek. I don't hate Apple. I really admire everything they have done for the advancement of tech. I consider myself to be tech savvy because I know tech YouTubers besides Linus and MKBHD. But being a tech enthusiast also makes me aware of how efficient and powerful modern phones have gotten in the past few years. And for most people, tech from a few years ago is perfectly fine. I do want to end on a positive note though, and tell some things I do like about Apple. I like that they give the longest software support. Their phones get support for 5 and even 7 years. And with the extra processing power in the iPhones, you can expect that trend to continue. I'm using a 4-year-old Android phone at this point, and I've actually installed a custom ROM to get Android 12. My phone company only gave it updates to Android 10. Even though they might be misguided on the way to do it, they do preach about the earth and how we need to protect it. And as Apple is the industry standard, other companies also try to seem environmentally friendly. And I imagine if they do make some meaningful changes, other companies would follow suit. So maybe I messaged Tim Apple about it. Even though I said Apple could do projects closer to dense cities, it isn't realistic for a company to interfere in the matters of an entire city. It may seem like a good idea, but planning such activities would require research and various viewpoints of members of said cities. Apple wouldn't have access to those, and might even disturb future projects planned out by the cities. The situation of Congo is extremely sad, and the companies that knowingly turn a blind eye to the situation should be criticized. But Congo is a country with a lot of problems, and cobalt mining is just a way to get money for a lot of people. The situation is amplified by a lot because of illegal mining companies. It would be unrealistic for companies to interfere because of the point I mentioned earlier. I do not believe a private company should take on the duties of the local government. Just forcefully solving a problem isn't enough. Most companies would just try to save face without caring about the underlying cultural and economical problems. But what they can do is acknowledge the problem, rather than to just ignore it. At least that could put international pressure on the Congo government to do something about it. Apple shouldn't need to pretend to be perfect. Honesty from companies is really all we want. So yeah, just be mindful of these things when a company says they are carbon neutral, and when a company says they are carbon neutral, ask them how they did that.